Where were you when President Kennedy was shot?
I was on duty with the Dexter Police Department on the day shift and had just gone into the Rexall drugstore to have a cup of coffee with the druggist, pharmacist who owned the store. And we were sitting at the counter and saw it on TV that he had been shot. And I got up and left and went back to the office, and then my wife called and said that he had been shot and that he died on the way to the hospital, and everything seemed to come to a halt after that.
What was it like to be a police chief for George Bush living in town?
The first few years were when he was in the CIA and the ambassador to China, and he lived on Ocean Avenue. He didn't live at Walker's Point. And in the summertime when he was around, there was a lot of traffic, but that was only in the summertime. When he became the vice president, the traffic increased, the people increased, the news media increased, and the summertime was mostly hectic with all the people, and people wanted to see the Walker's Point.
What were your thoughts on the Vietnam War?
I don't have many thoughts, except I think we wasted a lot of time in Vietnam because of the politicians in Washington who had their own ideas how the war should go, and they kind of took it away from the military command, and so it was kind of a waste.
What was it like being in the Navy?
The Navy was fun. I went in the Navy right after I got out of high school. The first year I was out of high school, and I served 4 years. And I went through basic training in Bainbridge, Maryland, went to school in the Great Lakes in Michigan, went from school to San Diego, California, where I went aboard the first ship. It was an aircraft carrier, the USS Boxer. We went from San Diego to Hawaii on Pearl Harbor, to Japan, 2 or 3 places in Japan, went to the new naval base in Subic Bay in the Philippines, and on to Hong Kong and back to Japan. And I was on that ship for about a year, a little over a year, and then I transferred to another ship in Bainbridge, Bremerton, Washington, and it was a new carrier under construction, being modified, and it was the Franklin D. Roosevelt. And once on the Roosevelt, they put it back in commission, and the full-time crew came aboard, and we went from Bremerton, Washington, to San Diego, California, to Lima, Peru, to Valparaiso, Chile, around the Horn, South America, and up to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and then up to Mayport, Florida. And I was on that ship for about a little over a year, and then I transferred to a base in Florida called Green Cove Springs, and served there until I got out of the service in 1958.
What is the difference being a police officer in Dexter and being a police chief in Kennebunkport?
Being a police officer, you didn't have a lot of responsibility of what was going on, but you did have to do the investigations and things like that because it was a small department. In 1974, I was hired as the police chief in Kennebunkport, and things were a lot more hectic at times and more responsibility, and but it was a good job, and I stayed there until I retired in March of 1992.
What was it like meeting the Prime Minister of England?
John Major at the time was the Prime Minister, and we met on Ocean Avenue at a function that Bush was having for a fundraiser, I think, for somebody in the Republican Party, but I don't remember who, and John Major was there and his wife, and they were guests at Walker's Point with the President. He seemed like a very nice man and was good to talk to.
What was it like working with the Secret Service?
The Secret Service was sometimes when President Bush was there in the summertime were very demanding of more manpower and that we had, and so we had a lot of responsibilities. We took care of the checkpoints on Ocean Avenue when he was there, and we had a sighted in the command post at all times, and it was just a lot of, every time he moved we had to close streets and things like that. It was but they were good people to work with. We had a good relationship with the Secret Service.